97.1 QMG and 1510 WEAL. If you're just joining us, welcome to the weekend edition of Community Focus. And to thank you as well if you've been with us since the start of the program. We appreciate your listenership. On QMG, you can hear Community Focus Saturday and Sunday mornings at 6 a.m. And when you tune into 1510 WEAL, family, we appreciate your company there as well. Saturday mornings at 7:30, Sunday mornings beginning at 7:10 to hear the weekend edition of Community Focus. And in addition to just hearing me, Renee, the good thing is you can hear somebody else on the weekend edition of Community Focus, and that includes attorney Debra Jessup, who joins us. We are engaged in a fantastic topic of discussion on estate planning, and Debra, you really gave us some food for thought, if you will, some things to think about, and to, again, encourage you, family, that if you have any questions for Debra, now is the time, especially on a topic as important as this. In the meantime, Debra, let me, as we get back into conversation, I ask you this question. What are the basic components of a good estate plan?
Well, Renee, there are a couple of just basic documents that, that make up a good estate plan. Well, first of all, there's the will.
Right.
Everybody should have a will, and that's just a document that gives very specific instructions about what you want to happen to your property after you pass away.
Right.
So that's the first
First
thing.
and foremost, yes.
Everybody, and I even tell people that if you're not going to do a will, everybody should have what we call a durable power of attorney. And a power of attorney will allow the person that you have chosen, and let me say that again, the person that you have chosen to manage your financial affairs if you're not able to do that.
Right.
That person is allowed, if you're incapacitated, they're allowed to go in and, go to the bank, sign your checks, pay your bills.
Correct.
Do your income taxes, and that person is allowed to basically take care of you if you become incapacitated. So that's that durable power of attorney.
Okay.
The other document is something called a health care power of attorney. Now, that document allows somebody else to make your health care decisions if you can't.
Right.
You walk into the doctor or the hospital and you say, I am Debra's health care power of attorney, and she's designated me as the person to make her decisions.
Okay.
And that's a very, very important document because you've talked to this person and they're somebody that's close to you.
Right.
And they're familiar with your health, they're familiar with your situation. And that's the best person to make those kinds of decisions.
Now, can that be an individual if it's not someone that's directly related to the family? Because I think in terms of a lot of times when a caretaker may come into the picture, or a person who the family is well acquainted with, but this individual takes care of the health needs of that individual on a regular basis.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So again, it goes back to that individual making the decision whether or who that individual will be. Okay.
Planning.
Yes.
And I like to have discussions with my clients about living wills.
Yeah.
Now, are they absolutely necessary? Probably not.
Okay.
But let me tell you why I have one.
Okay.
A living will is a document that basically says out loud that you don't want to be connected to a life support, artificial life support, if it's determined that you are not going to survive.
Okay.
So you've said it out loud, you put it in writing.
Right.
It's your decision. You've given, your family members this document, maybe even your doctor. I recommend people have that conversation with their doctor.
Right.
And the reason I think it's important and the reason I have one is because I don't want my family, my husband, my children to have to make that decision.
Right.
I've already made the decision. And like a good friend of mine said once about his family and his mother when talking to the doctor, it changes it from a task, from a decision to an assignment. And I think that that's a lovely gift to give to your family.
It's a great way to look at
They
it.
don't have to say, yes, terminate my mom's life support.
Right.
They say, that's what my mom
Wants.
So
Exactly.
I think it's a gift to your family, and that's why I think it's important.
Yeah.
Is having a living will.
And I'm sure that's also too the case when you're talking with your clients or when you're talking with individuals, that can pretty much help them a lot because they may be in a similar situation. Okay, that sounds like something that's going to work for me. Of course, every case is going to be different based on the individual.
And I'm glad you said that, because that is one of the things that I get a lot from people. Well, well, it should be pretty quick. We'll just do it today.
Right.
But it really is a process.
Exactly.
And it absolutely is not a one-size-fits-all.
Right.
Everybody's estate plan is different.
Very true.
You have to think about your family.
Exactly.
And what's good for them.
Exactly.
And who they are.
That's right.
And so it's not something that we do overnight.
Mm-hmm.
It's a process. It takes a couple of weeks.
Right. It does take time.
Because everybody's estate plan is unique.
Exactly. And it's going to be different. And that also made me think too, Deborah, and bring to mind that a lot of times, especially when we're caring for our aging parents, a lot of times we're no longer in the same home. Sometimes we're not even in the same state.
Absolutely.
There are individuals in which sons and daughters live in one area. Their parents are comfortable pretty much living with where they are. And so that's another important situation to take into consideration. Well, if you live so many miles away, to find that central location, it could be at the parents' home to sit down and have this discussion, to get that estate planning, to get the action in place, or it could be at the children's home. But just the fact, too, that's another situation to really take into consideration, that if you have parents that aren't necessarily close by or nearby you, to take that into consideration if they have someone that's perhaps long distance.
Absolutely. And in thinking about that, you can have, you need to, okay, this person is going to take care of these things.
Exactly.
And we're going to authorize this
right.
person because they're local.
Exactly. And especially if you have siblings that come into play. You may have a brother or a sister that may live a little bit closer to mom and dad than you do. So again, the importance of having everybody involved.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a family decision.
It is. And I like what you touched on earlier is that you do provide those family meetings.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
I think they're very important. Very,
very much
important.
so. Very much
very
so.
Important.
336-680-9710. If you're just joining us, welcome. You're listening to the weekend edition of Community Focus. Our topic of discussion, estate planning, and I've got one of the best. I'm learning some things, Deborah, so thank you very much. Attorney Debra Jessup is joining me, Renee Vaughn, here on the program. Now, we were going over some of the basic components of a good estate plan. You have a couple of more that you can share with us?
There are a couple more things. There's something called a revocable living trust.
Okay, now what's that?
When you start talking about trust, people think, what's that?
Right, exactly.
Okay. A trust is, what it does is it creates an entity that you can transfer your property to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It does some of the same things that a will does, because it does upon your death, then designate where your property should go.
Okay.
So rather than, for example, say my home being owned by Debra Jessup, my home will be owned by the Debra Jessup Revocable Living Trust.
Okay.
And the reason for doing that
mm-hmm.
is, and I would be the trustee while I'm alive.
Right.
The reason for doing that is that a trust can do a few things that a will can't. First of all, the trust goes into effect while you're alive.
Right.
And a trust can provide for your care in the event that you're incapacitated.
Mm-hmm.
Let me give you an example.
Sure.
Let's say, for example, we have someone who's, say their husband has passed away, and say they don't have any children. Okay.
Right.
A will would transfer their property on their death.
Mm-hmm.
However, if we create a trust for this individual, transfer their property to the trust,
Right.
now they can provide for their own care
Okay.
in the event that they're incapacitated. This person can say, well, I appoint my sister as my trustee in the
Right.
event that I can't serve in that capacity,
Mm-hmm.
and I direct that my trustee sell my property. I want to go to, this assisted living place. I want you to do this, this, and this.
Exactly.
So you not only have given instructions, you get to choose the person who actually is going
Right.
to carry out these instructions
Exactly.
and take care of you. So it's a way of transferring, using your property
Mm-hmm.
to take care of yourself while you're alive.
Exactly.
And then upon your death, the trust acts like a will and then transfers your property to wherever you'd like for it to go. So depending upon your situation,
Right.
like I said, it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing.
Exactly.
So
How true that is.
That's another good component that we can use. Another thing that we can do with the trust is and I wanted to bring this out about trust, is that,
Mm-hmm.
in our society now we have a lot of blended families.
Exactly.
And it's one of those things that can be a little delicate, but if it's a second marriage and you have children from a first marriage, maybe your husband has children from his first marriage, and maybe you have children from this marriage. So now, if something happens to you, of course you want to be able to provide for all your children.
Exactly.
So you can create a trust. You can provide that, a certain amount of funds will be placed in trust upon my death for, my children from my first marriage.
Right.
And a certain amount will go to my husband and my children from this marriage. And so you've kind of separated it in a nice little neat package.
Right.
Because what can happen in the event that you don't is now you've passed away. Your children are with your husband or with their father.
Right.
And all of your assets have now gone to your second husband, and now he remarries.
Exactly. And so that becomes a whole
You gotta-
new ball game, a different situation. And unfortunately, you've got some people who may not necessarily either understand or like the situation. Right. So we really want to eliminate the chaos and the disorder in a situation like this.
Exactly. Renee, what I like to say about it is we have to provide for our family members in a loving way.
Absolutely.
And we have to say it out loud.
Right. Exactly.
We have to say it out loud.
And I think that's so key is the component of communication, because a lot of times that's the one thing, surprisingly, I guess sometimes we just don't really pay attention to it because we don't realize it's something that we need to do more of or to be better at it, in a sense, because there are certain topics of discussion that are hard to talk about.
Exactly.
Let's just be honest. Exactly. And this is very likely one of them.
And it is.
Right.
It is. And people don't, it's not something that people like to think about.
Exactly.
They don't want to talk about it.
It's like you said earlier, I've got time. That's 20, 30 years down the road. But then what happens when those 20, 30 years catch up? Right. Then what do? You can't say you got another 20 or 30 years because there's no guarantee that's gonna happen.
And I love what you said at the outset is that you never know what's gonna happen.
Right.
I know of a situation where a young lady died at 32 with an 8-year-old.
Wow. And see, I'm sure that was sudden.
It was sudden.
Yeah, nobody was expecting that.
Exactly. And this is what I'm saying. Everybody needs to have an estate plan.
Exactly.
We have to think about sort of the unthinkable.
That's true. And with that said, Deborah, let's go to the phones at 336-680-9710. Good morning and welcome to Community Focus. How are you?
Good morning, Renee. I just love your show. I need to tell you that first and foremost.
Thank you so much.
The information that you give on a weekly basis is just phenomenal.
Oh, thank you.
And I love it. I'm driving to work, and of course, I'm listening, and I am just in awe. My mom is 87, and she lives in New York, and she has Alzheimer's.
Okay.
We have appointed my older sister as her power of attorney.
Yes.
I just wanted to know, is there a difference? Is there something else that we need to put in place to secure that everything will be done decently and in order?
Absolutely.
My sister, my mom doesn't want to be put on any kind of artificial life support, but my sister is struggling so hard with the Alzheimer's diagnosis that I'm afraid that if something, were to happen, that she would do it. What is it that we can do to put into place to ensure that doesn't happen, even though she holds the power of attorney?
Excellent question. And this is why I have people like Deborah on the program. I really appreciate this call. Deborah, can we assist her in any way?
Yes, I think that, first we need to know, where, what stage she is, in the illness, in the process of Alzheimer's. If your mother is still able to, make certain decisions, then she absolutely can sign, we call it a living will in North Carolina. In New York, they may refer to it as something called an advance directive. It's basically the same thing. If she's able to do that, and those are her wishes, absolutely, you should talk to her about that and have an attorney prepare that document for her. Also, if If she's able to make decisions about her property,
Right.
you may want to go ahead and transfer that property while she's able to make those decisions. So, and I think absolutely, and if not, I just would suggest that maybe you have, my favorite little term, a family meeting, and maybe meet with her physicians and maybe
Exactly.
support your sister in recognizing that this was not your mother's wishes.
Yeah, and that's it. The state of being in a different state, like you said earlier, I
Right.
was like, oh my gosh, is she talking about me? Being in another state and me being in the healthcare profession,
Wow.
it's
Yeah.
like, I'm like, okay, wait, I know that she's going to die from complications of dementia because otherwise she's in perfect health.
Right.
And I'm just afraid with my sister being unable to accept it,
Mhm.
that it's going to bring, how folks do. And, I don't want to get into that, argumentative, well, this is what she wanted,
Exactly.
that's what she wanted.
Right.
I didn't want to get into that with the family.
Exactly, because
Um,
even though this is a difficult situation, I think the key thing is you want to keep it a peaceable situation.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I
Well,
think-
ladies, go ahead. I'm
No,
sorry.
and I think that you're already on the right track
Exactly.
with recognizing
Okay.
that it's a conversation that you need to have
Exactly.
gently.
Yeah.
Oh, well, ladies, I want to say once again, thank you,
Oh,
thank
you're
you, thank
welcome.
you for all the information.
Absolutely.
And then you just keep doing what you're doing so you can keep informing us not knowers.
Thank you. Thank you so much, my dear. I really appreciate it. I know I want to have Deborah on a future show, and I really want to hopefully be in a position to where we can get a follow-up call from you to
Oh,
see how things are
absolutely.
coming along. Okay.
Absolutely.
We'll keep
You
that
ladies
in
have a blessed day.
Thank you very much, my dear. We appreciate your call.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. That was, talk about right on time.
Absolutely.
Because
And
I
it
like what
was.
she said when we were mentioning, if you're in that situation in which your parents don't live in the same state, and how she said, they're talking about me. So it's really great to know that we do have, first of all, an outlet such as this, and that we have individuals like yourselves, Deborah, that can help us in preparing for moments like this. And we talked a little bit about this during the break, and I wanted to bring it up here on Community Focus. We don't necessarily just come to you, but you also come to us.
Oh, absolutely. I will.
Okay. Let's talk about that.
I am very, very interested in getting out into the community
Right.
and educating the community. I am available to come and speak at churches, community groups, just because I think it's so important
Absolutely.
that people understand, the components of a good estate
Exactly.
plan, that everybody needs to do one.
Right.
And, not to be the voice of gloom and doom, Renee, but what happens when you don't do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And how education and just the knowledge is so key. I think the expression is radio is power. I think we're seeing and hearing, some powerful things shared on a public affairs show. This is the one thing that, I just so look forward to, because I do have an opportunity to engage in great conversation with individuals like yourselves. And it's evident when we have our listeners to call in and just say thank you, because we are able to touch on topics of discussion such as this that aren't always easy to talk about, because we don't know where to start. We don't know where to begin. We don't know who to go to. But then we have someone like you to come along. I think this is the very first time we've even that I can recall. And sometimes, the old thinker up here, it has its good days and bad days. But I'm pretty sure I've never engaged in this topic of discussion on estate planning, because the one thing is we all are learning something from this. And this is certainly pertinent information that I want to encourage our listeners that what you hear, pass along to somebody.
Oh, thank you. Thank you
Oh,
so much for
absolutely.
saying that. And I
Thank you.
appreciate being here. And I have to say, we as your listeners appreciate you. And
Well,
we
thank you.
appreciate,
This is what community is all
focus.
about. That's right.
We
So
do.
how
We do.
apropos that we have the title of the program called just that. Let's take another call, Deborah, at 680-9710. Good morning and welcome to Community Focus. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Doing well. Thank you for your call,
Okay.
my dear.
Yes, I'm running past a police officer and I'm driving. Excuse me for one
That's
minute.
fine. Just slow down.
I'm listening to your conversation on the radio on my way to work, and the young lady that just called, I have gone through the same thing in the past 6 months. My mother passed on the 17th of March, and she lived in Florida, and I was trying to, she had dementia and some other complications,
Right.
and I was told there in Florida that she needed a senior counsel to handle her will and other finances, because my sister and I didn't live in the same state.
Right.
And my mother didn't, she left a will where my sister gets 50% of the house, and then I'm, as executor, have to break down whatever the house sells for to the grandchildren,
Right.
and such. And at the same time, I couldn't get my mother to sign the house over to me or my sister because of her dementia.
Right.
So these people came in as her senior care advisors, and they took her money out of the bank because they were trying to get her Medicaid to go into a nursing home where she could be properly taken care of. And they took all her money. She only had like $14,000 in CDs and such. They took all that, and then she had like $5,000 left, and they wouldn't give it to us. They said that once she died, they couldn't turn that money over to us. So now my sister and I are in a dilemma where we have to still pay her electric bill, her water bill, and by me not being in work for 5-6 months,
Right.
I'm struggling to get myself back together to pay my bills. And her lawyer, she does have a lawyer, and she did have a will, but the lawyer wants $1,000 to probate my father's will. My father's been passed for 20 years. My mother never took his name off of the deed to the house. And my brother passed, and my nephew, his son passed. So it's just my grandniece, my sister, my 3 children, and her son and grandchildren. And she wants $1,000 for us to come down and probate the will. And I don't understand the whole thing of probate, but she's saying it's something like $10,000, and we don't have that kind of money. So
Exactly.
I'm like, where do we go from
Where do you
here?
go? Yeah.
And it's really, I mean, I'm just getting over her death, but at the same time, I'm trying to handle things. And I, too, am in the nursing profession. And I went down and took care of her for those 6 months. And I understood that she was going to, pass and all. And she was content with that. And we had discussed those things years before. But it didn't turn out the way we expected, because these people came in, hospice came in and told us we needed a lawyer for senior counsel to step in and take over the executive duties of her will. And they wouldn't even go by the will. They just cleaned out her bank account, and I'm not knowing any better. I gave them the money. It cost $7,400 for them to process the Medicaid information and get the Medicaid right away so she can go in a nursing home. And it's very hard when you come down to those points where the parent died and you know what responsibilities you have, but at the same time, people are telling you other things that you need to do, and you do it, and you come to find out you didn't have to do all of that. And basically, we wasted money, and I had no money to put in her account to help with her payments and bills, and I'm still the executive of the account,
Right. Oh, so much that you have going on, and why we need, again, Debra, individuals like yourself. Is there any contact information or any way? Because I'm pretty sure that when we hear a story like yours, my dear, that yours isn't the only one. I'm sure there are others that are going through a similar situation like this.
Well, I was trying to find out what else could I do.
Absolutely.
Because I have to go to Florida to take care of all this. And it's like, I don't even have the money to go back to clean out our house. We can't touch anything in the house. So
Wow. Well,
it's very hard.
caller, let me turn you over to Deborah for lack of a better word, and Deborah, just what can we do, if anything?
Yeah.
Well, let me just say that I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
But your mother lived in Florida, and
Yes.
state law and brings up actually a good point, is actually state law is based on the laws of the individual state where you live.
Right.
And
Yes.
She
Thank
had a
you.
will, so it will have to go through probate. And probate is a process that you have to go through if you have a will. It can be expensive, and I will just say that as we age, there are ways to plan your estate so that you don't have to go through probate.
Right.
But I
Right.
think that
Yeah.
the situation that you all are in is gonna require an overall assessment of everything involved, all of her assets, the property, and maybe getting you all to the right professional in Florida. And I'm happy to try to help you do that.
Sure.
Maybe get you to the right person in Florida.
Yeah.
You can call me at my office.
Oh, excellent. Do you mind sharing that contact number?
My
Oh,
office
yeah.
my office is actually in Winston-Salem, and my telephone number is 721-9090.
Wait,
Like I said,
give me 1 second. I'm trying to park and
okay.
I'm on my way to
Yes,
work also, but I got a
But
pen
do it
handy,
safely.
so-
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Like I said, it's state law, so you will have to have an estate planning attorney in the state of Florida,
Right.
in the county where she lived. And
Right,
I'm
right.
happy to try to help you do that. But
Okay.
your situation really does highlight how complex things can
Exactly.
be
I'm really touched on that.
as
Oh,
we
yeah.
age.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
we were not aware of all of this.
That was going
Okay,
on.
give me your number again, please.
Okay, it's 336
Uh-huh.
721
Seven-
9090.
Go ahead. 9090.
90.
Oh, okay. That's fine.
Wonderful.
That's good.
Well, thank
Yeah,
you, dear, first
because-
of all, for pulling over so you can take the number down safely.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
and-
We
and
appreciate your call.
Like I said, like the young lady said, your Saturday and Sunday morning, shows are very enlightening, and it helps you to think better and plan better for different things that y'all discuss, and it's very enlightening, and I really appreciate, that I got you on the phone and I can help, because my sister is worried about her house, my mother's house, and money issues, and my husband and I, we retired, and I'm back to work trying to pay bills that I had no
Right.
money to pay,
Exactly.
And the lawyer is in Florida, and she has my mother's will. I have a copy, and my sister does, but at the same time, it's like we have to go through her to get all of this done.
Yes.
And she's been lenient to say that if we go down and meet with her, we have to spend $1,000 first, and then she'll probate, and when we sell the house, she'll take her money off the top.
Well,
And I don't know what, I don't know. We don't know which way to go with that.
Exactly. Well, we really appreciate you being so willing to share your story, because what you're sharing is, I'm pretty sure, going to help someone else in a similar situation. So I look forward to an update from you as well, my dear. So take that number, get in contact with Deborah after the show, and give us a progress report too, if possible.
I sure will.
Thank you, my dear.
Very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I would like to help somebody else so they
Absolutely.
wouldn't have to go through it.
I appreciate you for saying that. Take care, my dear.
Thank you, and
You're
be
welcome.
blessed.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're very
Bye-bye.
welcome, darling. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye.
What a show.
Yeah.
Definitely, we will have to continue our conversation.
I would
So
love to do that.
thank you very much, Debra Jessup. So as I like to say here, no goodbyes. Just until next time. And just excellent calls, and just so appreciative to you, family, that what you're hearing on Community Focus, you do pay it forward. You do share it with others. And if it's helping you, by all means, share that information to help someone else. So thank you very much, Debra.
You're very welcome.
I appreciate it. Thank you, family, as always, for your great listenership as we do wrap up another weekend edition of Community Focus. Thank you for the company here on 97.1 QMG, along with our sister station, 1510 WEAL.